Knock and get, people. It'll be the best darn jingle they've ever heard.
Sure hope so.
Yeah. Oh. Well, the nail's doing a spread. Ace gunner is proud. What could be fired? Huh?
Yeah, that's great, Mom. Give us a smile. Stand behind you. Just my back, my hair.
So it's really nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Andrew.
Spoke to you on the first season.
Uh-huh.
And tell me, I mean, going into now the second season, how has it felt coming back to this character that I know you said you love so much?
I do. I love her. It's cool because you get to keep going further. You get to know her more, and they're exploring other sides of her. And
Right.
It was a little scary when we first started because I thought, okay, I know Lorna, I did Lorna, but I had this big chunk of life in between, and it's like, I don't want to do her wrong, like I don't want to get her wrong. But I was really relieved that Adrian was the first director, Adrian Mitchell, who
Right.
developed it and did the first, because I knew that she would, have that really good eye to be able to pull it to where it needed to be.
Well, I know you said even the first season how much you love this character, so
Yeah.
it must be huge coming back to this character
Yeah.
to get so much more out of her.
I know, it is, and I guess I'm not supposed to give away plot points, so I won't, but
Of course.
you've met one of the plot points.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's been,
We get to meet a bit of your family.
yes, that's right.
Which is very
Which
cool.
you've met a bit, because you've met Sheila and you've met my husband, and so it's interesting. It's opening up, and I think having another season and 12 episodes has given the writers a chance to kind of unwrap a lot of different packages that were under the Christmas tree, so that you can go in more to what's happening with Betty or what's happening with Gladys, and what's happening with Lorna and what's happening with Vera. And so you have all these different things that are just sort of breathing on their own, and it's nice when you have more time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's huge how much this allows you guys to grow the story
Yeah.
and develop things that you
Yeah.
really only touched on. So,
Yeah.
what are you looking forward to but the season that you can talk about?
Yeah, I look forward to every time I get a new script,
Yeah.
because you don't know. Like Michael McClellan's very Michael McClellan's very close with them. So when you're in the middle of the block before, you don't get them until maybe a week and a half before you start the next one. And so then it's sort of like Christmas. They're like, have you read the script? I haven't. Have you? And then you're like, oh, whatever happens, and you read through them, and then you're like, this is, Lorna so you get lulled into like, oh, this is going to be a cozy, oh dear, or this is, and I think that's really fun. Also working with the different directors, because with each director you get a different point of view of these characters, and because all the directors have seen the first season, there's a continuity, so there's a smoothness with it as well. But I think the thing I love most is coming back and seeing everybody, seeing all the girls and.
When you guys are like a big family. I mean,
yeah.
and you've even got now a new family joining the cast. It must be a kind of a big deal when you guys are on set together.
It's cool. Like there's people come in and people go out, and then other people come in and then they go out. And I think the wonderful thing about it is it does keep you also in the moment, because maybe one day you'll be one of the people who came in and then go out. And so it's like a finite amount of time we all have together. And so you just are in the moment and enjoying it and grateful for what you have. And then who knows what tomorrow brings, because it is wartime. We are working in a dangerous situation, or people move, or people, things happen. And you're always like, when I read the scripts, I'm like, no, because I like, when life's cozy, or when you want it all to stay still, but that's not life. And that's what I love about the show, even though sometimes it's hard, because you're like, I don't want to say goodbye to that person or this person, but at the same time, it's just part of life. It's like you're walking your path, and sometimes you're walking with someone, and then all of a sudden you're over here, and you're both living lives there, and then maybe you meet back up again, or maybe you don't. It's cool.
It really sounds like everyone I've met, I guess, has talked about how passionate they are about the show. And I think it's interesting that you know, that's what I've heard from the fans as well.
Yeah, aw.
Have you had that reaction from fans about your character in the
The
show?
fans are great. The fans really love the show. Well, the fans who come up to me. The ones who don't love the show, they probably don't come up to me. They probably spit it on the ground as I pass by. But the ones who love it are very enthusiastic, and they do come up, and it warms your heart, because you don't feel like you're just creating in a void. You feel like you're doing the best work you possibly can, and then you're offering it out, and then people are thinking, oh, and they're liking what you're doing. So it's like, you know, if you hand make a gift, like Beverly, who's behind you, who's the publicist, you know, she makes beautiful quilts, and so if she makes something or knits, you spend all that time making something, and then if you give it to somebody like with your heart, and you spent hours and hours of your time, and you're like, here, and then they're like, I hope you don't expect me to wear that. You know what I mean? It's much cozier when they're like, oh my God, I love it, and it's so beautiful, and I'm going to wear it all the time, and it's my favorite sweater, you know? It's different. So it's been such a gift to us, the fans embracing this show as they have.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think, too, from my perspective, that, you know, fans in Canada love the show, too, because it's a part of Canada.
I know.
It's huge.
I know. It's huge.
We don't get a lot of that.
No.
We don't get enough yet.
Yes. But maybe it's starting, you know, there's a few shows that are, and maybe it's just going to become more and more, and then it'll become like, you know, when you have a little tiny snowball like this, and you push it down a hill, and first you don't know if it's going to kind of putters a bit, and then you have to give it another push, but then as it gets a little more weight, and it starts getting bigger and building more snow, and then it's going down, and it's ginormous, and you just feel all proud.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it's going to be for Canadian TV, is that, you know, you have a few more, and then as we go, we build up steam.
How do you see your character going? Would you come back to her again and again? I mean, if we're going to have a third, a fourth season, you know, are you...
You know what?
Do you love her that much?
I do love her. I do love her, and I think more importantly, I love the people I'm working with.
Right.
Because you could love your character, but a set could be a nightmare, and then you would try to find a way to get your character killed.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? To fling yourself on the conveyor belt, and when they're shooting, and so they can't. No, they can't, because you don't do live shooting. But you would try to find a way, I would think. But because I love everybody so much, that it's cozy to come back. And you're working hard, and you're working long, long hours, and sometimes you're freezing, or like when we were shooting summer for winter, and we had winter coats and sweaters and scarves and gloves and tights. Just in case you don't know what gloves are, I'll act it out for you. Tights and boots, and you know. So when we had all that, and it was like 40 degrees, and you're trying to be, you know, you're like, whoa, this is hard, but still your heart's happy to be here. It's such a great group of people, and the crew we had last year was wonderful, and the crew we have this year is wonderful. So we got lucky with both crews, and then there's some people who stayed with the show, and that's really lovely. I just love everybody, as long as they have stories for Lorna and they aren't getting bored. But I do feel like if the viewers or if the writers, you know, the creators start getting like, oh, we've done all we can with the Lorna storyline,
right.
You know, then it's appropriate for them to segue me out and segue somebody else in, just to keep it good for the fans. Like, we don't want to get to the point where you know, I heard this phrase, so now I get to use it and pretend like I'm so in, you know, jumping the shark. We don't want to get, so maybe sometimes it's important too, or maybe it's not. Maybe there's a comfort for the fans to have the same people and same main people, but I don't know. But I think it's sort of like the perhaps, you know, that perhaps story of things, is something bad happens and it's a perhaps, and something good happens and it's perhaps, because they aren't bad or good, they just appear that way.
Right.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew.